Um, and with that, we will have a roll call.
Granicus. Councilmember Castellano,
Here.
Councilmember Moulton,
Here.
Councilmember Fernandez,
Here.
Councilmember Bauer,
Here.
Councilmember Contreras Deloche,
Here.
Mayor Burgell.
Here. And would all who care to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. And there was no report out of closed session. So we will move on to mayor's announcements. And tonight we have a presentation from Florence Parks from Big Brothers Big Sisters. Come on up. Nice to see you.
Good morning, evening. Well, that's a good way to get started, right? I have actually a plan to laugh more this year. So even if it's at my own expense, I'm all for it. So feel free to join me in that. Joy, it does bring us together and it connects us in a way that makes the fabric of our community what it is. And so I am so honored to be before you when I see so many of you out in the community doing such great things and being joyous and dancing with us and laughing with us and being in community. So first, I just want to applaud you and thank you for what you contribute to this very unique community. So as I get my PowerPoint together a little bit, we have some new branding this year, so it's kind of fun to start off the year with a bang. We came up with, we are Defenders of Potential a couple years back, but this year we're launching a new campaign, It Takes Little to Be Big. And what that means to us is that we are answering the question that so many of us have, about our time, about our commitment, about our availability, about what we can do to make an impact. So, how we know that everyone's time is of the essence and our youth need us today. And at a blink of an eye, they're grown up and doing great things. And those of us that invest in youth already know how quickly that time turns. And so it really does take little to be big. And so when we surveyed the community last year, one of the things we heard from people is that, I know and I want to invest in mentoring, but I just don't have the time. So we came up with two opportunities that I think will make a big impact. One we launched in the fall. It's called Lunch Buddies. We launched it right here in Eureka at Lafayette with the community programs here. And we were in partnership with Lafayette. We had our first big sibling matched, and I'll get to point her out a little later in the PowerPoint, but how wonderful it was to see her and the young person just run and launch themselves at her match meeting into her mentor's arms. And it was like something you don't always expect. I can't say every little is going to do that with their big, but this young lady, after talking to her about the potential of her match, and she had been experiencing a lot of the feelings of lack of belonging in her community. And so it was so essential that we had an intervention for her where she looks forward to going to school. And that's exactly what this program got to ignite for her. So if you don't know about Big Brothers Big Sisters, it's really, our program is really about focusing on all children thriving in our community. So when we develop programs, we want them to be the scope of our youth from age 6 all the way up to age 25. Our board voted to extend our age to 25 2 years ago. And so now we're being intentional in creating programs for our 16 to 25-year-olds. We create one-to-one mentoring relationships that ignite the power and promise of youth. And we're very intentional about our one-to-one program But when we also have been expanding to what we call one-on-one plus, and that means that we can be very thoughtful about the needs today for our youth and the volunteer so that we can still make the impact that will last for our children. Next slide, please. So it really does take little to be big. Those small moments, grabbing a slice of pizza, having a cup of coffee, chatting with someone, having a colleague that you know that's struggling and reaching out to them. Sometimes we can just be mentors, do spontaneous mentoring just by being a light in the community and going out like so many of you do. But there is science behind what we do. So we do collect the data. We make sure that we have the input. Right here, you can see our logic model. And what this says is what we put in and what we do, connecting with our littles, our bigs, and our families. And what comes out is a caring and connected community. And that's what we're all about. When we know that our program is working, when community is thriving, and we see so much of that. And how we do that is we really get to know our young people. Our enrollment process is the bulk of our team's work. It takes about 6 hours that we invest to get to know our littles and 12 for our bigs. And so that process is about keeping our kids safe and ensuring that we can make the best matches, the most suitable matches that will go out. And our hope is that matches will last the test of time. But the science shows that whatever we promise to our young people is what we need to deliver. And so we came up with the secret sauce of 1 year, 1 hour a week. This was our model for so long. But now we know if we can show up, whatever that small investment that we make, when we can show up and be consistent, that also makes a huge impact. We partner with our families to ensure our youth are safe, and we empower our families. So almost half of our families are from single family homes. And so what that means to us is that we have more of a responsibility to at least make sure that we're checking in with our moms, providing them with opportunities, or parents, sometimes grandparents, and but whoever that family member is, checking in with them. And we do that every month when they're in their first year, and then quarterly thereafter. Next slide. So you can see who our littles are right now. This was just a snapshot taken just in January. So currently nearly 45% of our matches are from single family homes. About 30% of our matches have chosen not to share about their living situations, but we have seen an increase from last year of the youth in foster care that we get to serve. So we're almost nearly to 2% of our matches being youth in foster care. And most of our matches do say they have reduced lunch, but not all of them are receiving resources. So that's something important for us to notice, that even though a lot of our families are from single family homes, have one income, sometimes a parent is working multiple jobs, and they come from the most loving, amazing families, but they just need someone to spend some time with. And a small amount of our families are from incarcerated households. And so this is just a little bit about what you can see. The largest group that we serve is from the age of 11 to 12. However, we are steadily increasing our older youth that we're serving from 13 to 14, and that's one of the reasons why we want to continue to support them until they have a plan for their future. And that's really our hope through our Big Futures program. Next slide. So throughout the nation, there are over 30,000 youth that are waiting for a mentor. And what we do know is that 1 in every 3 youth grow up without someone that they call a loving adult in their lives. And so that's what we call the mentoring gap. And that is the deficit that we're kind of championing against, to ensure that our kids, no matter what, grow up and can say they can identify who has been investing in the lives of our youth. Currently, we do have 25 youth that are on our wait list and ready to be matched now. And I have one young man that I have had on my wait list. He thinks he's been on our wait list since his sister was matched 6 years ago. And his sister is still with her mentor, and they're having a wonderful relationship. However, about 2 years ago, he talked to me about this, and he thought he was waiting for a big. And we got him enrolled about a year later. And so he's been waiting, he believes, for 6 years for his mentor. So that's the young person I'm championing for all the time. His name's Henry. He's wonderful. He's in Blue Lake. So if anyone from Blue Lake is kind of looking in, I hope that you will reach out to me. Next slide. You can see that we served for the first 10 years, a decade ago, we served about 14 youth. And since I've come on to the agency, we've increased, and we hover around 75 youth that we match and support each year. It costs us $2,500 to support a match each year, which is really low for the state of California, which can be anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000 per young person. And our Lunch Buddies program will come into something like $600 per youth. So it's a really affordable program for us. Next slide. Thank you. So what does it mean when you volunteer for a program, a formal mentoring program? And what does it mean to become a big sister? It means that you show up consistently. You get the match support. Tomorrow, in fact, we have a big support group. Every quarter they meet, and it's virtual, so you can come go online, and they're going over understanding trauma and how it affects our kids. And we have a special speaker that will be leaning in to teach them. So you're not on your own as a big. You can join those support groups if it works for your schedule. If not, we will find others. There's online trainings as well. And we love to provide activities and ideas in the community, and we host an activity every quarter. Next slide. So this is Kai, and remember the young lady I said rushed into the arms of her lunch buddy? That was Maisie. So it just warms my heart that she found someone that she can feel that she belongs with. And I've seen such a difference between from the time that they were matched and today. They were just matched in the fall. But when I see Maisie on campus now, she's walking with such confidence. She's got a couple friends in tote, and she's walking around like she owns the place. And that's really what we want for our littles. What we know about Lunch Buddies, it started in 2006 and it's been researched. But I brought it to this community because it's only 30 minutes a week at a lunch. You have your lunch. Basically, bring your sack lunch to a school site that's near you, and you spend 30 minutes with your little. But what we also know is that kids need additional mentoring, and sometimes that relationship can evolve into a community-based match. And we match youth between the ages of 6 and 16 years old. And the hope is that every community-based match meets 2 to 3 times a month for at least 8 hours. What other ways can you support Big Brothers Big Sisters? By recruiting. So you might know someone in your community that just radiates positivity and is really good with young people, and they're probably doing 10 other things. But if sometimes when you ask your friend and say, have you ever thought about being a mentor? It means so much more than them seeing it somewhere else. And when the time is right, that seed you plant will bloom. Other things that you can do with us is, it's fine, is be a board member. And we do have hybrid meetings, but we're meeting in person now. And we're always taking applicants for our board because those are our champions and the people that are doing the work behind the scenes. And our board is an active board. So such a wonderful group of people that if you're looking for a community, I would recommend joining our board to give back. All right. So, other ways to support us this month, March 1st and 2nd, is our Bowl for Kids' Sake. It's our one big event of the year. And it's where we take a pause as a team. A lot of people look at Big Brothers Big Sisters and say, oh, you must have a huge amount of people behind you doing all of that work, but there's only 3.5 FTEs. It's 5 staff, most of which are part-time, and we're all dedicating our time to ensure that this program is a success. Bowl for Kids' Sake is where we get the lion's share of our resources, so we're not focused on fundraising all year, and we're focused on what matters, our youth and families. Other ways that you can, so sponsorships can be as small as $300 all the way up to underwriters at $5,000. For Bowl for Kids' Sake, or you can get a sign-up sheet with me today and do your own fundraising and just drop it off on the 1st or 2nd. You can choose to stay in Bowl or with your team, or you can just drop off the resources that you raise. But your resources are put into action, and we ensure that every dollar is spent towards our matches. So again, you can volunteer. Volunteering is, we all know, those of us that volunteer, that civic engagement is one of the most important ways that we can provide self-care for ourselves. Those that give in that way are already thriving in ways. It's kind of like the it factor for so many of us in our community. So you can also give donations. We're always accepting donations year round, but we'd love you to come enjoy our fundraiser with us, because Bowl for Kids' Sake, we transform Harbor Lanes this year into a speakeasy, hence the pearls, and we're hoping that you'll join us. We'll have feathers and just have a good time. And each year there's prizes. You can earn a t-shirt, you can earn Fire Stick or a trip to Bimbo Inn. There's so many wonderful ways, and there's prizes all throughout your wave that you can win, but nothing more sought after than the pin for most enthusiastic or best dressed team. So that we'll be decorating those pins and having those available for teams that look forward to that. But we ask you to join us in any way, and I'm available to chat with anyone that's interested to know more about our program, and I have some handouts for you.
Thank you, Florence, for being here. We will be there bowling, all of us.
Oh, thank you.
So you can donate on the Big Brothers Big Sisters website to Team Eureka, which it'll be up tomorrow. So if you want to donate, we'd love to have your donations to support us supporting you and them. That makes sense.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Florence? Councilmember Bauer.
No, I think it's a testament to Big Brothers Big Sisters to say happy 120th anniversary. Like, you've been, that's amazing. I appreciate all you do.
And thank you for your proclamation in January for National Mentoring Month. That meant a lot to us, and we're so grateful that we can be here as a makeover, a do-over.
Great. Well, thank you. We'll see you on Sunday, or
All right.
Saturday the 2nd.
All right, Saturday 2nd at 12:45.
See you then.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Always so uplifting listening to these presentations. Okay, and with that, we're going to move on to the public comment period. This is the time for members of the public who wish to be heard on matters that do not appear on the agenda. City Council policy is to limit each speaker to 3 minutes. Such time allotment or portion thereof shall not be transferred to other speakers. The public will be allowed to speak concurrently with the call of an agenda item following the staff presentation of that item. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council may not take action on an item that does not appear on the agenda. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you. Just in time.
Yes.
To be the first in line.
Great.
Good evening. My name is Maggie Hinchliff, and I'm here to speak about the Housing for All and Downtown Vitality Initiative. The initiative has broad support from businesses because they know it will help to protect and stimulate the downtown economy. Small business owners are the lifeblood of a thriving downtown. These people love Eureka. They have chosen to raise their families here. They have established their businesses here and are providing jobs for Eurekans. They contribute to the local economy, pay taxes, and support local philanthropies. They bring in tourism dollars. They are an important part of what makes Eureka so special. Your plan to use city parking lots for housing is going to put them out of business. They have been telling you this for years, but you have not been listening to them. They deserve to have a voice and be heard. You all claim to support local businesses by posting videos of yourself shopping at local stores or using a shop local hashtag on social media, but you aren't supporting them. You aren't even listening to them, and your policies are harming them. The Housing for All initiative supports helping working families who are struggling to find affordable housing options. I was glad to see so many people interested in using the Jacobs site for housing because that is exactly what is in the initiative. The proponents of the initiative recognized that the Jacobs site could be a great place for people of all income levels to live. It has the capacity to provide 3 times as many homes as could be built downtown while also protecting the economic vitality of our downtown and small business community. Lots of the feedback from the public at the Jacobs Town Hall was in favor of housing. The initiative identified the Jacobs site as a prime location for housing. Maybe the initiative isn't as bad as so many of you have claimed. Maybe it's not actually ant-housing as you had liked to call it. The initiative supports housing downtown 100%. The initiative will keep badly needed parking and help build badly needed housing. It enables housing to be built alongside or above the parking lots as is done in cities nationwide, even here in Eureka, such as the Willow Bay Apartments on Seal Street. I encourage people to learn more about the initiative at eurekahousingforall2024.org. They can also sign up for the newsletter list to receive updates. I have found the proponents, Mike Munson and Michelle Constantine, to be very friendly, trustworthy, and transparent, and they obviously care about the future of Eureka, where housing and businesses can coexist. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. Come on up. Welcome, Heidi.
Hi, guys. I'm Heidi Benzanelli, and I wear many hats in the community. But with all those hats on, I keep hearing the same stories. Our PG&E's going up. Our water bills are going up. Food, gas, rent. It's getting harder and harder for all the folks to make ends meet. So as I grow and I start to learn more about how stuff actually gets done, I realize that the squeaky wheel really does get the grease. And if the voices of the people don't get into the rooms of the real decision makers, the legislators, and the project pickers, then, well, we get left out. So right now we have opportunity. We've got opportunity in economic development. We've got opportunity at the state and local level to get our voices heard, but they need to be elevated. We need to get the community's voice into those data sets. Into the data sets, onto the desks, and into the rooms of the project pickers. So I'm going to arrange 2 listening sessions for residents of the city of Eureka. They're both going to be at J Cafe. And these are going to be the opportunities for people to come and share their ideas about economic development, their concerns. And in a perfect world, what would the community that you live in be like? How would it be vital? How would you be able to make your ends meet? And what can the legislators and the project pickers do to help make our community be a better place to live? Those events are going to be held at the Jefferson Community Center. One of them is going to be on a Saturday morning right after our free produce stand, and that's going to be in J Cafe on March 16th at 10:30 in the morning. Then we're going to have another one in the evening on Thursday, March 21st at 5:30 in J Cafe. Both of them will have some light snacks and food, and we'll make sure they'll be quick, maybe an hour and a half. We'll make sure that you have what you need to come and have your voices heard, and we'll see if we can get some of your ideas into the rooms of the project pickers. Anyway, thank you, and I hope I see you guys at Jefferson.
Thank you. Big appreciation. Hello, welcome.
Hello. Okay, Jeff Myrtle Town. Okay, so I'm just going to say a couple of things. One, actually, I voted for the UROC Vice Chair, Frankie Myers, for representative this year. I think it'll be a great opportunity to enable them to have some representation at the state level. The second thing is an ongoing issue, which is also at the state level, and that has to do with a population that is itinerant, has a number of chemical dependencies, has extensive experience in the correctional system as guests, not as employees, that is other than sane and has challenges with maintaining order and hygiene. That's the weaselese for it that lawyers and politicians use. One can also say that these are individuals who are degenerate, depraved derelicts. Anyway, I'm going to share a case in Sacramento that was brought as a suit brought by the district attorney against the city of Sacramento. I alluded to this earlier, and I read a bit of an article. This article is from Sacramento Bee. It's entitled, Sacramento Homeless Crisis Has Caused Erosion of Everyday Life. Cities Collapsing into Chaos. Hope to finish this article now. Okay, so this is the attorney. Both Daho and attorney Gavrillov said that the city has created a public nuisance by allowing homeless camps to spread into residential neighborhoods and for failing to clear sidewalks and areas around public buildings. Following DA Ho's lawsuit announcement, Sacramento Mayor Darrell Stanberg accused the district attorney of politicizing the homeless issue. DeHoe told the Globe that his lawsuit isn't personal or political. Public safety is my only concern, Ho said. I can't raise taxes or assign housing to be built, DA Ho said. He reiterated that public safety is his purview as district attorney. Both attorneys said they intend to take their lawsuits to trial and depose Sacramento city officials and Mayor Darrell Stanberg. However, they just sent a demand letter to city attorney Susanna Wood and wrote that her plan to represent the city in both lawsuits is alarming and outrageous because she is a mature witness in both actions, as Sacramento Bee reported. He described the city as collapsing into chaos and said Sacramento's homeless crisis has become an erosion of everyday life. Gavrilov said Sacramento Mayor Steinberg is trying to politicize something that is not a political issue and calls this the Steinberg Decree. He's making human tragedy and human suffering a political issue, Gavrilov said. He added that there are other real good council members who can show us that they will do the right thing. They're with us for a solution and not going to want a perfect solution. Sacramento's dying, attorney Gavrilov's lawsuit says. Darrell Steinberg, the city's mayor, is the executioner. The failure to address the ubiquitous spread of homelessness throughout the city is Steinberg's poison. The Steinberg Decree has transformed the once bucolic, tree-lined city into a rotting cesspool of decay and despair. Far from exuding the prestige which accompanies being the nerve center of a massive global economy, the streets and neighborhoods of Sacramento resemble the urban decay that blight the world's poorest developing nations. Since Steinberg took office in 2016, the city's homeless population has decreased more than 250%. The unprecedented surge in homelessness is a direct result of a mayoral decree, the Steinberg Decree, which prohibits police and other city officials from clearing dangerous homeless encampments that clutter the sidewalks and pollute local neighborhoods. This is important for a couple of reasons. One, it will serve as a model for other cities, and it's a suit within the government by another organization and backed by businesses, so it's likely to have legs and have an impact. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Would you be willing to send that article? You read really fast. Thank you. Thank you. Hello. Hi there. Shannon, would you help with the mic, please? Or I don't know. Shannon's got it for you.
Yeah.
You've got it.
Right there? Okay. My name's Phyllis Coy. I recently attended an event in Old Town, and it involved a walking tour of Old Town, which we weren't expecting at the time. However, in the walking of the Old Town, since I'm in a wheelchair, my sister was merrily pushing me along, and we come to cracks in the sidewalk, which pretty near upended me. And it was like 5 or 6 times. There's also cracks in the street next to the railroad tracks along First Street, which I think is where they are. And then there's a large gap in the ramp leading to the gazebo. It looks like a piece of wood was used as a spacer and dropped away, leaving a large gap. When my wheelchair's wheels hit these cracks, it brought me to an abrupt halt. And also along 3rd Street between C and D, I believe it is, there's a dip it appears if you're just walking along a sidewalk and there's a driveway dip and you don't notice it and your foot goes down lower than you were anticipating, it can trip you, and it almost upended me there with that episode too. These cracks, they're very it's upsetting to hit them and to come to an abrupt halt. So you may not you may not notice them if you're walking. So get a wheelchair or two and walk through Old Town. So maybe 4 of you could go, 2 pushing wheelchairs and 2 walking, and you'll notice the cracks more, I believe, when you're in a wheelchair rather than you are when you're walking. Now the gap on the gazebo is wide enough. The lady that gave the presentation for Big Brothers Big Sisters, the heels she was wearing would easily fall into that dip. And she could easily fall going up or down the ramp going up to the gazebo. My concern, it may save someone a serious injury. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for being here. Hello and welcome.
Hello, hello. Around $22,000. That's the salary you pay a recruit to attend police academy for 6 months. Around $4,500. That's the cost of the academy. If they're a California resident, add another $7,000 for an out-of-state recruit. Around $20,000 for the graduate's 4 months of FTO, and just shy of $26,000 for his FTO officer's salary. We're at $72,500, and that's the cost I can find in writing. That's before you add benefits for those 2 people. Add a minimum of 2 weeks of background investigator and their travel costs. Add uniforms, equipment, staff time, recruiting time, marketing materials to recruit someone, and that's what you're paying for 10 months to get a police officer. It's a hefty price tag. And then the city goes cheap on salary and they go away. At the standard 2,000 plus hours a year, if you were to pay that officer $5 a year more, it would take him almost 7 years to earn that initial investment back. Measure H funds would be the perfect place to draw this. The ballot question for Measure H funds was to maintain police, fire, 911, emergency medical response, youth and senior services, local businesses and job support, street repairs and road safety, community health services, homeless prevention programs, parks and recreations, and other essential services. Shall an ordinance renewing the City of Eureka's voter-approved sales tax at the 1.25 cent rate be adopted until ended by voters, providing an estimated $9.6 million annually, with independent citizen oversight, annual audits, and all funds spent to benefit local residents. Nowhere in this ballot question does it state for new streets or using the fund for matching grant funds. The resolution and the ordinance both include that, but the ballot question does not. Matching grant funds wasn't put to the voters. A bicycle trail is not an essential service, and there's no independent citizen oversight as the Measure H committee was not formed, so the task was given to the Financial Advisory Committee. If you read their job description, they have no teeth and can only give an opinion if the city asks. I've yet to see an audit of Measure H funds. Things disappear from Measure H funds with the notation "Move to General Fund," and there's no audit trail to be found. In the presentation made by the city to the Financial Advisory Committee in June of 2023, $0 was allocated to police or fire. 11% went to street and alley maintenance, and a surprise new category of street projects was found, taking 31.6% of the dollars for the year, which is where the latest matching grant funds came from for the bicycle trail. Measure H was not created as a slush fund for council wants. Start using this fund to maintain police and fire by keeping the most vital component, the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Is there anyone else in chambers that would like to share? Okay, do you see anyone on Zoom, Shannon?
I see no one on Zoom.
Okay, so seeing none, we're going to close public comment. And we are at the consent calendar. All matters listed under this category are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. Pursuant to City Council Resolution 2011-22, if a member of the public would like an item on the consent calendar pulled and discussed separately, the request shall be made to a council member prior to the meeting. Unless a specific request is made by a council member, the consent calendar will not be read. There will be no separate discussion of these items. And I haven't heard of anybody pulling anything. No, so is someone willing to make the move?
I'll move to approve the consent calendar as written.
Second.
First and a second, please vote. A motion and a second.
Unanimous yes vote, motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, legislative action correspondence. Is there anything coming down yet? Not yet. Okay. Ordinances and resolutions. Let's see. 2023-24 mid-year budget review. Director Millar. Connecticut system.
Good evening. Tonight's report is on the fiscal year 23-24 mid-year budget. So typically a little past the halfway point of the fiscal year, departments all come together with the finance department taking the lead, and we look at where we're at with the budget. This is an opportunity for departments to either add or take away from their budget, and for the finance department to look at the city's largest expense, salaries and benefits, and to update those line items in the budget. For tonight's presentation, we'll begin by looking at the general fund. We will look at other funds and adjustments that are being requested, and then we will quickly go through some proposed personnel changes. So beginning with the general fund and the revenues, or I'm sorry, the bottom line. So back in June of 23, we adopted the fiscal year 23-24 budget. At that time, we estimated that we had a balanced budget with a small surplus. So tonight, when you see revenues, they will be displayed in parentheses. Those are technically negative numbers. Expenses are positive numbers. So when you see a net negative, that's actually a good thing. What that's telling us right here is that we expect more revenues than expenditures. So we did adjust the budget earlier in the fiscal year at a November 21st council meeting. You saw a presentation on a big project that has to do with relocating the city's courtyard. During this presentation or this agenda item, we talked about acquiring a new asset, that asset being land. So we appropriated about $1.4 million to purchase a piece of land adjacent to the Ocean View Cemetery. So when you add that to the budget, you can see that that changes the bottom line. It shows a large deficit. It is unusual for the general fund to purchase land. It doesn't happen very often. This is a fairly large project. We're just at the beginning of it. There's a good chance that in the future, when we're looking at financing the new courtyard, that we reimburse ourselves for the purchase of the land. So looking at revenues by category, we'll start at the top. Taxes make up the largest category of revenues within the general fund. We are estimating that revenues from taxes will go down about $160,000. When we drill into that number, we can see that it's comprised of both positives and negatives. I'll start at the top. So we have a number of different sales tax revenues. The first one is the Bradley Burns sales tax. So this is 1% of what you pay at the register. This sales tax stream, this captures sales that go on in the store. And when we're looking at what we think the budget is for each of these sales tax streams, we rely on HDL Companies. They're a consulting firm that helps us project sales tax numbers. And they updated their numbers for Eureka back in December. and showed a $400,000 decrease or downgrade in our Bradley Burns tax. The next set of sales tax revenue streams are a little bit different. These are use taxes. So these get applied in the store, but they also get applied when people make purchases online. So it's not uncommon to see these sales tax revenues go in a different direction. And as you can see right here, that they are estimated to increase, so lessening that downgrade of the Bradley Burns tax. We also did receive a little bit of Measure Q revenues. That should not be expected in future years. Sometimes people pay late, and we receive monies from prior fiscal years. We also receive another sales tax-like revenue stream. This comes off, or it comes as part of our property tax payments we receive from the county. This is adjusted by the state based on sales tax changes. So, and this is something HDL also provides, and they're estimating that this revenue is going to drop by approximately $60,000 in the current fiscal year. And then finally, TOT revenue. So this isn't all TOT revenue. This is specific to the vacation rentals that are not permitted. This is something we started over the past year. I didn't have a good way to estimate how much money we would receive for this line item, but based on current trends, I expect it to at least be about $75,000 in the current fiscal year. Looking at sales tax again, just to kind of highlight something that is important to understand when you're looking at the general fund's finances. So sales tax is about 65% of the total general fund revenue. So it's very significant, and based on how it's trending, can really dictate how much we have to spend on the other side. So as you can see, back in 21-22, we actually saw a peak in revenues. The following year, 22-23, it actually went down by approximately $600,000. And then when we adopted the 23-24 budget, we expected it to be about $340,000 less than fiscal year 21-22. With the update, that number is actually even lower, so we're actually expecting it to come in about $600,000 less than it did 2 years ago. Sales tax does go up and down. It tends to be correlated with the overall economy. The economy is doing really well at the national level, but for some reason our revenues aren't keeping up. We expect it to increase slightly next fiscal year, but overall it's been relatively low, and sometimes we're seeing decreases. In the next category, licenses, permits, and franchises, we expect an increase of about $120,000. This is coming from our 3 franchise fees. So gas and electric franchise, that's with PG&E. Due to their rate increases, we expect about $100,000 more in this fiscal year. Our cable TV franchise, we are seeing less cable subscribers, so we are downgrading this by about 30,000 based on last year's actuals. And then the garbage franchise, I believe that increase is due to garbage rate increases, so I expect about $50,000 more in this current year budget. Intergovernmental, so this category does include an item that is similar to property tax. The state did a swap, so the city used to receive vehicle license fees, and there was a change, so that change essentially swapped out property tax revenues for vehicle license fees. That makes up about 2.9 million of that category. So it's technically intergovernmental because it's coming from the county, but the remainder of those line items really has to do with different grants. Most grants that the city receives are reimbursable grants, meaning that we spend the money first and then we bill the state or the federal government. So the increase in this category really has to do with receiving some of those reimbursement checks. So in the current year, because these numbers reflect what we've actually received, we've received about $240,000 from some of our grants, HAP and LEAP, that are part of the CAPE program. And then the SB2 grant, that paid for the waterfront specific plan. We received a reimbursement check this year for that project as well. Charges for services. So this has to do with the different services that departments provide to the public, whether that's a permit fee or a zoo admission. We're expecting an approximate $200,000 increase in this category. Zoo admission did very well last fiscal year. We exceeded 1.5 million. So based on that actual of last fiscal year, I'm increasing the current year estimate, especially after our event we had over the holiday. Zoo membership revenues. So last year was the first year we received 100% of zoo membership revenue. So it was hard to base an estimate off not having any data. And based off the 22-23 results, I expect roughly $300,000 in zoo membership revenues. Engineering reviews. So these are fees that are paid to the engineering division. In the budget, we had estimated about $50,000 in these fees, but based on current year trends, I expect that to be about half. So the bottom line shows about a 1.3% increase or $500,000 to our revenues. That's never bad. So let's see how that matches up with our expenditures. So beginning at the top, personnel or salaries and benefits. This is the biggest expenditure category. It's showing a very minor change. It's a little deceptive because when you drill down, you can see there are a lot of competing line items here. So based on our personnel costs that we've seen through the end of January, I've calculated about $240,000 in salary savings. I do expect salary savings between the months of February and June, but I am unable to predict that with any level of accuracy because we don't know who's going to be or what positions will be filled versus unfilled. The next line, workers' comp. So this is technically a salary and benefit, but because of an overage in last fiscal year and for the purposes of building a contingency in our risk management fund, this is the fund that ultimately pays for our worker comp benefits. I've had to increase those line items, and those increases have resulted in about $127,000 in additional general fund costs. There's also been requests or department requests for more overtime and temp salaries. So ultimately, when you net those two other line items against the salary savings, we're about even. Materials and supplies, as well as outside services. So these are line items that are managed by the departments themselves. Departments during the mid-year request changes to their budgets. So the total of roughly $600,000 is the result of departments asking for more in their current year budget. Because I only have so much time and there's many line items in the budget, I'm just giving you averages. So there were 33 line items where departments requested increases with an average change of about $22,000. Usually I request that departments, if they're going to add in one line item, that they take away from another. I think there was more time spent on adding and not taking away. Based on my analysis, I don't think we will spend anywhere near what was requested, which is the good news. There wasn't any significant change to any one item. It was just a lot of increases across the board. So the next category is cost allocation. So unlike materials and supplies, these amounts are calculated by the finance department. So departments don't really control these costs. They typically follow things like number of employees or square footage. This makes up 3 different line item changes. So liability insurance, just like workers' comp, has continued to increase over the years. We had an overage due to deductibles last fiscal year. We're covering that overage as well as adding another contingency to essentially build a reserve in that fund. General government and general admin, so that's the city manager's office, finance, HR, city attorney. We are projected to go over budget in that fund, $650. That's mainly the result of adding an additional employee. So we are increasing those cost allocation line items to cover the projected overage. Capital outlay, this is probably not the best category for this line item, but that is a project from the ARPA monies. This was a contract that we have with a local theater group. They're going to put on some live events, and that $62,000 reflects that contract. That money will be reimbursed to us through our ARPA monies. And finally, debt service. So in August, we had to pay the first lease payment on a new fire apparatus for a ladder truck. We still have not received that ladder truck. I assumed that we wouldn't start paying until we receive the vehicle, but that wasn't the case. So this is to accommodate that payment. The city does have a CIP or reserve with the JPA. We're currently looking at the health of that reserve based on some soon to come financials to see or to make the assessment of whether or not we want to take that out of the general fund or have it reimbursed by that CIP reserve. So when we look at the total increase, we're estimating about a 2.7% increase or a $1.2 million increase to the general fund expenditures. That said, I do expect that number to be a lot less when we get to the end of June. So I'm going to show you the schedule in 2 versions. The first version is without that land purchase. So you can see we started with a balanced budget. Now we expect a $500,000 deficit. I expect that deficit to go or be much lower, if not balanced. But when you see the budget, it won't look like that. You will see the effects of buying that land, which will show an approximate $2 million deficit in the general fund. So we did make adjustments to other funds. Starting with the water fund, it saw by far the largest increase, but for good reason. We're currently replacing all of our water meters, and it's been hard to acquire these meters. We only get them in batches. The first few batches were late, and now we're trying to speed up the process, so all of these costs have kind of converged into the current fiscal year. But that increase was expected, mostly over time, but this isn't something unusual. It's just a large and very vital piece of doing water billing. And the wastewater fund, small increase. It still has a surplus. There's been requests for additional monies for equipment and parts. And then the wastewater fund saw increases to their cost allocation accounts of about $50,000. In equipment operations, so this is the fund that houses the motor pool or the courtyard. It started off the year with a nice surplus and should end the year with a surplus, but there was a request to increase the budget for repair parts, for outside services, but they did have a little bit of salary savings. In our IT fund, we're expecting an increase of about $57,000. This is mainly to do with cell phone charges, as well as those cost allocation increases. In Fund 650, that increase of $95,000 was mainly the result of the personnel increases as well as the cost allocation. And then finally, in our facility maintenance fund, there was a request for an additional $52,000 for building repairs, cleaning supplies, as well as personnel and cost allocation increases. So this is our final section of the presentation. It simply highlights the changes to our FTEs. So I did make an error on the schedule that was attached to the agenda item. It's not the assistant associate engineer that is being removed. It's actually a associate civil engineer. But other than that, these are the changes that we're proposing to our personnel. So essentially adding about 0.7 FTEs to the budget. And that concludes my presentation, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have questions for Director Millar? Councilmember Castellano?
Sure. I was just, thank you for the presentation. I'm curious to understand in the IT, the additional 30,000 in cell phone charges. Is that because of technology changes and the need to upgrade technology, or what? Do you know a little bit more about that?
That's a hard one to explain because it was a department request. I think cell phones can be a hard thing to estimate because you don't know from year to year who will have cell phones or how many new ones you'll issue. So I think we tend to look backwards, and because of that, we tend to underestimate in that category. So my assumption is that we either underestimated the number of cell phones or underestimated the bills in that line item.
Council, I can also add that this is our first full year of outfitting our police department so that all of our officers each have their own cell phone. And I think we probably underestimated the monthly charges. We have been issuing, when COVID came along and we had more people taking calls from home and working from home, we do have a large number of cell phones that were deployed during that time. So I think this is a cost that's catching up with us, along with the officers' cell phones.
Thank you.
Councilmember Bauer?
Yeah, great presentation, Director Millar. Going back to water meters. Now, just to be clear, that's enterprise funds, right? Separate from general fund, because I don't think it was clear. I just want to make sure people understood, right?
That's correct. Yeah, when I went into the other fund category, I quickly went through many of the city's funds. That's not all of them. Those were just funds that had adjustments proposed. But that's true. Water revenues can only be used for water activities, so that the money being spent on those water meters comes from the water bills.
All right. Thank you.
Councilmember Fernandez?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for putting together this presentation. I am not familiar. yeah, with Measure Q, if you could tell me a bit about that. I know it said expired, but I don't know the history of that one.
Sure. So Measure Q was replaced by Measure H. Measure Q was a 1/2 cent sales tax. It had a 5-year sunset. And prior to Measure Q, there was Measure O. And I believe Measure O was the first of that third sales tax revenue. So every city collects Bradley Burns. That's given to every local agency. And then agencies can add district taxes. So the city has had Measure D. It's a 1/4 cent sales tax for decades, and that does not expire. Then Measure O was added at a 1/2 cent. It had a 5-year sunset. Then we had Measure Q. I think you're required to change the letters. And then Measure H, as Measure Q was expiring, we replaced that with Measure H, and that does not have a sunset. And it's also 1.25% versus 1/2 cent.
All right, thank you. And then I've got one more.
Go ahead.
Okay. And then I know right now at the moment things aren't looking too rosy, but you'd said that perhaps June we would see smaller deficit, if not something more balanced, correct?
Correct.
And so,
sorry if I could expand on that. So I do expect some more salary savings. So that should help a lot. And then typically, I think departments like to ensure that they don't go over budget by adding a little bit more cushion. So I tend to look at what they've spent to date and then what that tells me based on like a pro rata figure. I do that. I kind of double check their work. In this case, I didn't want to, go through line by line and adjust to what I thought was necessary. So I do expect about 75 to 50% of what was requested to actually be spent. So based on those two factors, I think the deficit will be much less than $500,000.
okay. And so knowing that there still may be something there less than, how might this impact negotiations moving forward? As those are open at the moment.
I don't know if the 23-24 results have really any impact on those negotiations. I think based on, I can't predict what those contracts will look like, but we do have some room to be a little more disciplined, I guess, when it comes to the budget. We're not at the point where we're looking to save money or try to kind of pull back. So I think if we were faced with the concern that we're going to be running deficit after deficit, I think we would certainly change gears. But until I see the actual results, I don't feel the need to really try to turn the ship at this point.
Okay, no, I appreciate that answer. It goes back to the public comment we heard about earlier about investing in personnel. So thank you.
Councilmember Castellano?
Thank you. A couple of months ago at council, we mentioned bringing forward a utilities program to help support residents who maybe are having trouble paying their utility bills. And I know that wasn't factored into this budget revise. Will that still be able to come forward in a future? And then will you just, when you bring it forward, will you contextualize it in reference to where we're at with the budget?
Sure, that should be no problem. I expect that to come in the month of March.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, we'll open this.
City Manager Slattery had his hand up.
City Manager Slattery?
I just wanted to mention, and good evening, Mayor and Council. I just wanted my city manager report is going to cover what Councilmember Castellano was referring to there. The utility and rental assistance program.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to close the question time and open it up to public comment. Is there anyone from the public in chambers that would like to speak on this item? Hello and welcome.
Hi, my name's Eileen Barcht. I don't know what period the physical period is, so that would have a bearing on my comment. But according to meetings that I have attended, City of Eureka purchased the Ocean View Cemetery property or approved it in November of 23, but they spent $3 million on outside engineering in May of '23. And so the engineering fees that are in the budget that you show don't show the engineering fees for the purchase, the skeptics or whatever, the investigation or the engineering costs that were paid for engineering the Ocean View Cemetery property to an operations center. I don't understand why that doesn't collate.
Thank you. Would you be willing to send that in an email and we can email your answers back to you?
Prefer not to use email, but I will.
Or a phone call. You can call me. Yeah. Thank you. Is there anyone on Zoom?
See no one on Zoom.
Then we will close the public comment and bring it back for comments and a motion. Councilmember Contreras Deloach.
I just, first of all, thank you. I appreciate this, and I always appreciate your attention to detail and also your caution and kind of watching all of these different things that are kind of going on. And so I know I've said this for the year that I've been elected, and I'm gonna reiterate it that I do think that we need to. I think even though there are some economic indicators that they're using to say that, hey, our economy is strong, there are a number of them that are indicating the opposite. And I stand by that, and I think that it's just something that we just need to be really, really careful about, because I think we're gonna, the decline in our sales tax looks like, and I'm trying to remember the number because we kind of moved through the slide fast, but I think it ended up being 40%, or it wasn't quite double, but it was almost double what we projected we wouldn't have, right? I'm trying to remember. I don't know if you can remember, but it was quite higher, the decline in that. And I think, there's like a number of different little things. And I know they're kind of saying like, okay, well, GDP is here or whatever. But then, we've had an inverted yield curve since 2022. And our consumer price index kind of gives us a better idea of some of those things. The cost of things is just very, very high. And when you talk to, I know you guys, run businesses and stuff too, but the cost of goods and services, the cost of employment, and the amount of money that people have to spend because of how much the cost of things have gone up, even though wages have climbed, the cost of everything has outpaced it. And so people aren't really feeling that wiggle room. Anyway, because of the type of funding structure we have with the city that makes these weird volatile conditions, it makes us even more volatile. And so I appreciate, you going over that, but I guess this is more for the council. I just think we're a year into this, and it is, I think, concerning. And I think that we should just be really ready for this to become a lot more concerning over this next couple of years, and just to kind of keep that in mind. I hope that I'm wrong, but we're a year into this and I don't think that I am. So I think we're going to have to prioritize what we want to see move forward. And there's going to be some things I think that are going to fall off. So.
Thank you. Any further comments or a motion? Councilmember Fernandez?
Sorry. Do we need a motion to receive the report?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If you could put that back up, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to briefly respond to Council Member Contreras Deloach, I agree. It's very sobering to see that we have, for a brief moment there, a surplus, but I understand the cost of purchasing the. Please help me here. The operations complex. Thank you, because that is something that we desperately needed to invest in. I understand that there are going to be savings potentially as we move forward, primarily based on the unfilled positions, as you were saying, some salary savings there. But that's why I had to ask the question I did, particularly about how does this affect our negotiations, because we need to be, we don't necessarily have to have the appearance that we're robust, but that we do treat our city workers, whether they're here at City Hall or around the city, fire department, police, that we treat them well and that we want them to stay. And so, that's how we stem that loss. And it is a very tight very tenuous tightrope that you have to walk there. And so I appreciate the work that you've put into this and the forward thinking that you've done. We just need to be very mindful of what we're doing for the next 18 months probably, and beyond that. I'll go ahead and make a motion to adopt.
You're going to move to?
Yes, I will move to adopt a resolution of the City Council amending the financial year 2023-2024 adopted budget.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
I want to say
Oh, there's a further comment?
Sorry. Just for the, a member of the public did ask a question about our fiscal year, and it's July through June. So just so you don't have to wait for that answer. So anything happening in May wouldn't be in this particular budget. Okay, that's all.
Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, we have a motion and a second, and we've got the vote.
Unanimous yes vote, motion carries.
Okay. Thank you, Director Millar.
Thank you.
And with that, we will move on to city manager reports. Oh, no, future agenda items, excuse me. Future agenda items, do we have any? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to city manager reports. City Manager Slattery.
You're getting used to that, huh? Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
As I'd said previously, two things. Director Millar had brought up the next meeting in March. The next meeting in March, there will be a presentation by staff about the participatory budgeting process. We're coming up with a game plan and going to be presenting that to council for discussion at the first meeting in March. As council member, God, my glasses are really sideways. Anyway, as council member Castellano had mentioned, they had brought up about the rental and utility assist program. We had that as a part of the previous participatory budgeting process. Like I said in that meeting, I was going to go back and look and see if there's any funds left from that, and unfortunately there is not. What happened with that is the rental assistance wasn't as popular for folks, and the utility was, and so we took some money from the rental assistance and put it into the utility, but all of those funds were used up in last budget process. However, we have been successful. Our CAPE program was successful in securing $40,000 of homeless housing assistance program funding from the county, thanks to DHHS. That $40,000 is going to be made available within the next couple of months through our CAPE program. That'll be eligible for community members at the 30% income level, the median income level. So it is for the very low income folks. However, we're also reallocating some permanent local housing allocation funding, which is funding that we receive that's not competitive. It's based on our size, and we get that funding. We're looking to reallocate that for more housing, homeless prevention programming, and that should open that. Not only should it add more than that $40,000 that we currently have, but also should add hopefully at 60%. So the income qualification will be a little bit higher for that as well. The HAP program only does utility assistance, so that $40,000 will only be for utility assistance, and we're hoping with the PLHA, when it gets reprogrammed, we'll be able to do both housing rental assistance as well as utility assistance. So just wanted to give you guys an update on that. And next meeting, there will be the participatory budgeting. Obviously, as a part of that process, that funding can be made available for those to even add additional funding to that rental and utility assistance program. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you, Director
And I'm taking
Slattery.
off my glasses because I look super awkward.
So does anyone have any questions for City Manager Slattery? Seeing none, thank you for your presentation. And we will move on to council reports. And we're going to let's start with Councilmember Moulton.
I was just thinking the mayor never starts with me.
Today's your day.
Today's my day.
You must be
Hello.
living right.
I must be living right. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I don't have any travel to report, but since the last meeting, I have attended some other meetings. Yay. Let's see. The Humboldt Bay Fire JPA had two meetings, had an emergency meeting. Decisions sometimes need to be made very quickly. Working on getting everybody on board there. If you want to be a firefighter, now is a really good time to sign up for that. No, that's a good job. This last Saturday, and then just after the last meeting, I was able to go on to Thursday Night Talk on KZZH, that's Access Humboldt, talking about the Jacobs campus. Big talk over in my ward. Of course, everybody wants to talk about it. That was very interesting. I got to zoom into the public safety town hall, which looked like a small but tight group. A lot of information coming out there. So good job to my fellow council members, or Councilmember Contreras Deloach on that one. At all. On that day, I was able to attend an info session over at the Labor Temple with the I Like Eureka Housing folks, providing an opposition for the ballot initiative that's coming up about parking lots, and that will heavily affect my ward there, the Jacobs campus. So recommend folks get lots of information on both sides of that story. And that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you. I attended, since the last meeting, 3 Humboldt Transit Authority meetings, partially because things are starting to move forward with the hydrogen fueling station. And, I just want to thank staff there for working so hard to get out. There's an RFP out, and it's going to be a really great asset, not only for the bus service in the community as we unroll kind of one of the first real long distance hydrogen buses in the nation. It's going to be right here. We're kind of breaking new ground or rolling new wheels. Anyway, for in terms of alternative fueling for bus service. So that's really great, especially for a rural area to have that available. Let's see, I attended the Eureka Main Street meeting, and I want to thank Director Kenyon for a really informative presentation there around the Waterfront Specific Plan. I attended the Humboldt Waste Management Authority meeting, and I continue to host a weekly housing meeting. I attended the I Like Eureka Housing informational meeting, and then tangential to council, but interrelated, I also attended the Live Well Humboldt meeting, a Cal Nonprofits meeting, and a Workforce Development Board meeting. It was a couple of weeks of, I think I had a meeting almost every day, but learning a lot about just the way all of these different realms really affect one another in terms of when we think about what our community needs to function. So thankful for the opportunity.
Thank you. Councilmember Fernandez.
Thank you, Mayor. Please forgive my absence. At the previous meeting, I was out with COVID at the time. Shortly before that, though, I had attended the swearing in of State Senator Mike McGuire into his new role as the Senate pro tempore. And then shortly after testing negative, I attended the Humboldt Bay Fire JPA as an alternate, where they discussed the mid-year budget review. And again, like my colleague, Councilmember Moulton here said, if now's a good time to be a firefighter, especially if you have some years of experience. So please, if you know folks, encourage them. Certainly something I wanted to do when I was 12, but don't have the physique at the moment. So this past weekend, I attended the Operating Engineers Local 3 crab feed, and also, like a few other council members, I attended the event for the I Like Eureka Housing to get their perspective and see what they were saying. Met with some EPOA Eureka Police Officers Association officers to discuss their work conditions and their experience in public safety. Did that in kind with my other colleague, Councilmember Contreras Deloche, scheduling a ride-along, hopefully with EPD in the next few weeks, not having done one since late 2022 with our CSET team. And what should have been a ride-along, but sadly there were no calls, but also grateful that there were no calls the other day, though I did get to enjoy the captain's kimchi soup at Station 4 with the Humboldt Bay Fire. And then I will be out of town this coming Monday, which is when the Redwood Region Economic Development Commission meets, and so I'll be asking my alternate to attend that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Contreras Deloche.
Okay. Yeah, I attended the online, the UROC's Missing, Murdered, and Indigenous Peoples Conference. I also did the Board of Supervisors, our 2x2 that's a couple of us, and then a Supervisor Arroyo and Supervisor Bone that's a part of that. And then I also attended to inform myself and listen in the I Like Eureka Housing meeting. And then, like Councilmember Fernandez mentioned, we met with a couple of the officers from the EPOA and had a meeting with them that was really helpful. And then of course, we held a public safety town hall that Supervisor Arroyo and I co-hosted. She was enormously helpful, and I really appreciate that. And she invited a couple of people from the county as well. And so we had Captain Quinnell from the Sheriff's Department, and I'm trying to remember, Ginger, thank you. I was trying to remember Ginger's last name, and I cannot remember.
Maybe?
No, it's not Ginger Rogers. Good grief. Good grief. And then Chief Stevens had also attended that, and it was really helpful to get to hear. I learned a lot. They just had a lot of good answers, and that's actually available online. And so anybody that didn't get an opportunity to attend it or see it, maybe watch it. They answered a lot of really good questions, and I appreciate all the other people that attended it too. We had a couple of our officers that were there, one of our commanders, and then we also Chief Greg Allen from Rio Dell also came. And then I'm just grateful to the citizens who did make time to come when it was super rainy and ask a lot of questions and stuff. And so it gave us an opportunity for everybody to really talk, and deeply appreciate that.
Thank you. Councilmember Bauer.
Thank you. Yeah, I attended a JPA meeting as well as some of my colleagues, and I had a lot of RCEA meetings this past couple weeks. I want to mention electrification. There's a school bus that goes by my house every day, and it's so weird to watch a bus go by without a tailpipe and dead silent for the most part. I think it's really cool seeing Eureka City Schools do that. I wanted to thank city staff and Humboldt Bay Fire, because they responded to a little vehicle incident at my place of work, and help to control some pollutants from going to our beautiful bay. So thank you guys for coming out and doing that. And Cooper Gulch, we will be doing a cleanup probably late March. So I'll be more information coming out soon about that. Probably trash and non-native species, probably late March. And then one last thing, I think everybody has their ballots, so don't forget to vote. It's coming up. Thank you.
Thank you. And just a few closing thoughts. Ginger Campbell. Not Ginger Rogers, Ginger Campbell. This takes me a minute. I just wanted to let folks know that I attended the town hall. Appreciation for that. I'm really enjoying those. I think it's great for the public to be able to have and be able to come, as we were talking earlier, and have that dialogue. Instead of just being here and having your 3 minutes. So that's something that is really important. I went to a Cal Poly President's Board meeting, HCOG meeting, and then I just would be remiss if I didn't mention this, but I just want to remind people that words are powerful, the words that we use, and I really appreciate the passion that people bring to this meeting, but demonizing people for their behavior or calling them names because they aren't in the same space as maybe you or someone else is. I understand the frustration, but name calling really isn't a helpful tool in mitigating those situations. So I hope we would all be mindful when we're sharing with each other